The Watauga Arts Council with your host, Cherry Johnson, serving arts in Watauga County for more than 30 years.
Hi, I'm Cherry Johnson with the Watauga County Arts Council, and I hope you're aware that we have finally achieved one of our big dreams, and that is that we are starting a major series, or have started a major series of workshops and classes, and we are doing them for all ages, all kinds of art forms, everything from woodworking to basket making to oil painting, a little of everything. And one of the things we're doing for children is something that kind of touches my heart, because I was one of those kids that used to doodle in class and draw and shade it and color it with my pencil. And I would have fit right into Katherine Marx's classes. It would have been just a natural thing for me because I just thought that was fun to do, you know. And so children that are 8 to 14, is that the age bracket, Katherine?
Yes, it is.
Okay, Katherine's going to be teaching an ongoing series of drawing classes. So these are not going to be something that you sign up and you get one session or 3 sessions or whatever it is, like many of our workshops. This is going to be something that you can continue to do for a long time, as long as you want to.
Right.
So, Katherine, you have, number one, you're an artist.
Yes.
Okay, you want to tell us about your background so that all the parents out there feel real comfortable?
Okay, well, I always liked to draw since, from being a kid, and I actually went to art school for design, and I was a graphic designer professionally for several years. And I've always drawn on the side, and I lived in Raleigh for quite a while, and had a friend that asked if I could take over some art classes because their art instructor had left. And I did, and that was my introduction to teaching, and I taught for several years, maybe 5 or 6 years, and had some of the same students that would come back or just stay with the class for several years, and got new ones coming in. It was great.
That's wonderful. Now, you're teaching a small group. It's not intended to be a 30-member class or something like that.
That's right. It's limited to 5, maybe 6 students, because I found having more doesn't really work, because I give a lot of individual attention during the class to each child. So they have to be small classes.
Now, the way this is going to work is that we're charging by the lesson, but you're paying monthly. Kind of like piano lessons work, where that you will sign up for a month at a time, and in the month of March, if you want to sign up, we'll just prorate down, because we realize that you might not hear about this until the month has already begun. And so just in case, it's okay, you go ahead and call us and we'll get you fitted in and get your child into the classes. So it's $16 per lesson, but you pay by the month and in advance for the month. And so you can do it the month of March, and then do it in April, and then do it in May, and just keep on doing it. And you'll pay the Arts Council, and then Katherine has a list of materials that you're going to give to parents that tells what kinds of things are appropriate for the classes and so forth.
Right. A few materials will be needed. A proper sketchbook, a good quality sketchbook, some pencils, and basic set of drawing pencils. There are additional materials we use, but offhand I would say that we would supply those. Yeah,
and there's very little upfront expense in materials.
Right.
I mean, those things she's naming are not massively expensive items at all.
No.
And they're things that you'll use for a good long period of time. The drawing pads usually have quite a few pages in them and so forth. So, it's not like you're going to put a lot of money out on something and then not be able to get it back out. Let's look at some of the things that your students have done when you were teaching in Raleigh.
Yes.
And this is your first time teaching in this area, right?
Yes, it is.
So she's recently moved to this area, and so we're getting her started here, and we just hope to keep this going indefinitely. But you did this, as you said, for a while in Raleigh, so this is the work of some of your students there. So share with us what you're talking about.
Okay, well, this is a pencil drawing. So this was, line drawing from objects in the room, and I instruct them how to do shading very neatly and tell them about the different pencils and what kind of effects you can get. So this was a 9-year-old's drawing, which I thought was great. I was really proud of their work. They surprised me.
Let me question you about one thing. I know a lot of adults who don't think they could do that.
Right.
And how is it that you get a child to understand how to place the objects in the, that they're drawing and so forth?
I teach them techniques, actually the techniques that I learned in art school, of how to look at things, because it is really difficult to look at objects in a room and translate that onto a piece
Yes,
of
it
paper
is.
accurately, or even fairly accurately. But there are lots of techniques that can be done to help.
Tricks of the trade.
Yes, exactly. And that's what I teach them in the classroom. There are many tricks and things that can help you actually understand what you're seeing and be able to put that on a paper.
Right. And I think we're going to have adults chasing you around wanting to do lab lessons too.
Well, no, I've never taught adults.
Okay, now you also do add a little bit of color to your teaching.
Yes. So we always start with drawing. And so there was a drawing behind here. Pencil drawing, and this student was also age 9, and this was colored pencil added on top for the color. And this was probably graphite pencil, and the colored parts are the colored pencil.
I'm very impressed, and I'm a former art teacher. So
yeah, like I said, they really surprised me. But I can tell you, all these students, they really like to draw, and they're very eager to learn.
And you're giving them very intense attention.
Yes, yes. I would go around. I mean, the whole class. I go around to them. I do an example beforehand.
And you're going to show us some of that in just a moment of how you do
yes,
that.
Yes, I'll show an example.
Okay.
And then
is this
I
a still
explain
life?
to them, and then I go around the class and help them.
Right. So you explain to the whole class, and they're working together on projects, like everybody's working on the same project?
Yes, for the most part, unless the child has missed a class and has to catch up to finish. Sometimes they finish on their own. We'd handle that different ways.
Gotcha.
But for the most part, yes, we're all on the same project.
Okay.
This is another pencil drawing. This is done by a 10-year-old, and it's a combination of a line drawing and shading. And it was just, we do a lot of still lifes.
So you bring in objects and arrange them. And,
right, exactly. Or we draw for what's in the room, like that first one I showed you was actually the setup
nice
of the room. Right. Right. Okay, this is an example of, it's a combination, a multimedia. It's pencil drawing again from a real object. And she added some watercolor. Sometimes we use watercolor pencils. And colored pencil to highlight it.
And those are live plants that they've,
Yes, those were actual objects.
Which is a little bit on the intimidating side because, you think about, for example, a tree, trunk, limbs, leaves. It's not that simple.
It's not. None of it's as simple as you would think.
No ball and stick.
Exactly, but that's where the different techniques come in.
Exactly.
And they learn.
And giving the illusion of the plant without actually drawing every single.
That's right, and that's now that you bring that up, like in this wicker chair, you can see that not every piece of wicker has been drawn because I think that it would actually take away from it. Whereas here, you can see the highlighting on it, and you don't, I would show them how you don't have to put have to cover every square inch of your drawing.
Your brain fills in,
exactly,
so it works. You understand that's a wicker chair,
Right.
Now this is a cool design.
As I mentioned, I was a graphic designer, and actually the kids loved doing graphic design projects. And this one was a logo design project. And the way we'd go about graphic design projects, it's the same way I did it professionally. I'd have them come up with 3 different distinct ideas, make rough sketches, and we'd have class critiques, and we would comment, I'd have each child comment on the other children's work and pick out which was the strongest design, and then they would go ahead and complete it. And
critiques are really something very valuable in the arts world because they're a chance to hear feedback that you might not have seen.
Exactly.
So
exactly. It's another way, more, an additional learning experience.
And the word critique is not a negative word. I think that when people first hear that word, they think negative criticism, but it's not. It is constructive criticism.
It's exactly. It's not, and I would never have them say, "Oh, this is good" or "this is bad," and leave it at that. It was very specific. What about this design is strong? What about it is weak?
And I like those words, strong and weak,
Right.
because that doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it needs to be strengthened.
Exactly, because everything in the art world, I think, is subjective.
Oh, yes. It sure is. And I looked at this piece and I thought, now that is a challenge for a child, because as an adult, I had some issues with drawing glass, clear
Yes,
glass.
yes.
You have to be very precise with that.
Right. And it's just another one of those things where you have to study what you're looking at.
It's an exercise in looking.
It is. All of it's an exercise in looking. Exactly. It's actually a lot of analysis of where is this object actually in relation to the other object.
Yes, and how does the light cast
Right.
and go through glass? That's what's challenging about glass, is that light actually goes through glass and
Yes.
it warps and it changes.
Right.
And
Right.
so you have to look for those things.
Exactly. And and you could see the branch, there was a
Yes.
little change in the glass, the shape of the glass, and it changed where the stem went.
Yeah.
in this. So this one was, pencil drawing with shading and some colored pencil.
To add a little highlight.
Right, to highlight the most important, what she thought was the most important part of the
That's
drawing.
great.
So this is a 12-year-old.
Right. Now this one blows me away. This is a 12-year-old.
Right. This is a 12-year-old did this. This was actually a photo. We did this from a photograph I found in a magazine, and a 12-year-old did this, and this was this was done in first a pencil drawing to get it accurate, then to progress with watercolor and colored pencil to add the highlights of, like, you can see actually individual hairs in here and real detail, and you can see of his eye and eyebrow and all that.
And that's an excellent job of doing that too.
Yeah, I was really impressed with this, and this took several sessions.
I'm sure. And that's the thing too, is that none of these are one-shot deals.
Some are.
Well, yeah, some of the line drawings
simpler
and
ones,
that
yes,
stuff, yeah.
some are, but some of them take several sessions to complete.
And that's okay.
Right, it is.
And I love this technique.
Right, this is, we used Conte crayons, and this is, sometimes I would assign them to copy the old masters, and this is, I have a book of Degas drawings, and so they've just picked a couple drawings out of there they liked, and they copied them, and I think that's a valid technique to see how the old
That
masters
was how I was
drew.
first trained, was to literally copy, just because you see
Right.
things and you see how they solved problems,
Right.
and you start understanding how to approach stuff, and then you start out and you start taking it other places.
Right, and you can study
Yeah.
their technique. When you're trying to copy something, you have to look exactly what is their
You do.
technique. So this was done by a 13-year-old.
Now, this is interesting. Look, can I show this part?
Yes.
Okay. And then you hold this, or vice versa. Here,
Okay.
you hold that, and I'll hold this because you got a point. Tell us what's going on here.
Okay, so this is this came from a photograph that I found in a magazine. And we did the line drawing first, and then some, actually it was just colored pencil.
Right.
And I did this one first, and I showed them how to build the color. You can see, we have lots of different techniques that I would show them on scrap paper, the steps to do, and this was showing them how to build this flesh tone color. And this was one of my students' drawings.
13-year-old.
She's 13. Now this one took several sessions, but I thought, looks great, looks really similar. I was very impressed.
So they're pretty impressive. Now here are some examples of some things you don't have the children's version of, but these are examples of what you do.
Right. This was, I was preparing this for a lesson that we just never did, but down here you can see how these are colored pencils, and how I gradually built layers of additional pencils to get a whole range of tones. These are for skin tones. And so here's another one where I found just a photograph of a rose in a magazine, and showed how you could translate that into an actual colored pencil drawing.
So it's not like you're just taking a photograph and copying it. You're taking a segment of a photograph and using it as a guide for part of the piece.
And I, sometimes I would come up with the lesson plans, but I would get the kids' feedback and what they like to do. And sometimes
one of the cool things about drawing and painting other things, like for example a photograph in a magazine, is you might find a segment that you really like, but you just don't like that side of it. So you use the part you like, and then you create your own whatever it is to go in the other part of the picture if you want to do that.
Oh, exactly.
So it's just it's a springboard. Kind of takes you into where you want to take the piece on its own, so.
Exactly, and sometimes we would do abstract type projects.
Yeah, we're showing all very realistic stuff
right,
here.
Right, there were also, there were many different techniques. Pen and ink, which I don't have examples right with
Now, what other materials would they be using besides, we talked about colored pencil, a little bit of watercolor, the drawing pencils. What else did we talk about? The crayon.
Right, right, Conti crayon. Some of those, I supplied the colored pencils because we used really high quality colored pencils, and they do tend to be expensive.
Right.
So I just let them use my colored pencils.
And then if they really get in it, they can buy a set. But
right. They some of them would buy a couple pencils on their own.
But where I'm going, I think, is that there's a lot of variety for the child that likes something to try new ideas and new ways of doing.
Right.
That give them something new. I'm thinking specifically, I know one child that's going to be in the class who has certain things that he likes to do, and I'd like to see him stretch beyond that,
Right.
So.
Right. We also did perspective. I taught them 1, 2 point, 3 point
That's
perspective.
very important. Yeah.
We do buildings. We do cityscapes sometimes.
That's great.
Pen and ink. There are many different types of projects.
Well, don't be surprised if you see me hanging out in this room. This truly is something that's dear to my heart. I enjoy this kind of work. I love seeing it. I love seeing people do it.
Right.
I love teaching it. So I think it's just really a fun thing. I'm so glad you're going to be doing this with us. Now, the way that you register your child for this is you got several choices. One, you can go to our website, watauga-arts.org, and you'll see workshops and classes. Click that. It'll take you straight to where there's a list of classes. You'll find Katherine's. You'll see pictures that will guide you if you're not sure what Katherine's name was. If you forgot that, you'll still see it. And then you'll click on that. It'll take you to the page that tells much more about what Katherine's doing. Also on the website are registration forms. Now for under 18, we have a packet of information that we require of 1 packet per child. We don't make you do it every time you take a class. But this packet has medical information and information about who can pick them up and who can't pick them up, and et cetera, so that we're protecting your children to the best of our ability by having this information on file for every child. So you'll have to do that. And of course, you can pay using PayPal if you use the website, or you can call us and we can take it over the phone and do your credit card. Or you can mail us a check with your registration form, or you can just come by the Blue Ridge Art Space. Now, we're located at the corner of Chatelaine and State Farm Road. Our street address for your GPSers is 377 Chatelaine Drive. And it's pretty obvious that it's art space. We've got blue people dancing and doing all kinds of cool things on the front porch, wooden images, I should say. And the sign, of course, it says Blue Ridge Art Space. We do have parking. That's a big deal in Boone, especially. And so it's a very comfortable environment, a very family-friendly environment. The classes, we didn't tell exactly when they are. They start March the 6th, and you're doing it from 5 to 6:30 every Thursday afternoon from here on. Right? And so from 5 to 6:30 is a good time block, I know, for families, because you've got time to get the homework out of the way and then do this and then still be home in time for dinner and bedtime on time. So that works out. Good timing on that. So I expect that was a voice of experience talking
Right. That's when I held the classes, actually, in Raleigh.
So I think this is going to be a very popular activity. I think we're going to keep our class full. So if you want your child in on it, we already have a couple of folks already signed up, and it won't be long before it will be full. So please hurry and get your child in on this now, unless we can persuade Katherine to do 2 a week. All right, well, please check our website again, watauga-arts.org, for information about this workshop, a lot of workshops, and so much more.
Watauga Arts Council with your host, Cherry Johnson, serving arts in Watauga County for more than 30 years.